Oh, hey, sorry, didn't see you there. Didn't hear you come in. Wow, I was waiting for you to get here. I had some stuff I wanted to talk to you about today, and so here we are. So let's pull up a chair or a stool or whatever and have a little conversation because today I want to talk about collector car insurance. Or if you're from the North Country, we're going to talk about insurance. I'm Mike.
This is My Cars Shop.
I've been working on and around classic cars and antique cars since the early 80s. And I've learned a lot over the years. But one of the subjects that I find a lot of people don't have a clear understanding of is collector car insurance. Now, there are a lot of options and things out there that you can look at, and there are people who have opinions about what the best insurance company is and who you should go with and what you should do and what kind of coverage you should carry and that kind of stuff. Well, I want to share some practical thoughts, some experiences, and just give you some pointers on the best way to handle and where to look for good collector car insurance. Let me clarify that I'm not here to promote one insurance carrier over another. There's a lot of people out there that specialize in collector car insurance, and that's fine. The major carriers of insurance often have collector car policies. I particularly use auto owners, um, but there's Grundy and there's Haggerty and all kinds of other companies that use it. I stick with auto owners because all of my personal and my business policies are through auto owners, and I just like having working with one company that I've been with for 15 or more years and always had good luck with. I'm not saying that's the one to go with. It really doesn't matter what company or what carrier you go with. What really matters is the kind of insurance you get. And there's a lot of misunderstandings on this. Now, I'm not sitting here, definitely not standing here. I'm not sitting here as though I'm some kind of an expert on this, but I want to give you some of my wisdom that I've learned over the years of dealing with insurance on classic and antique cars. I've been very fortunate that the mistakes that I've made with my insurance policies never really bit me, uh, and that's fortunate. But I've had a lot of classic cars and antique cars over the years. And when I was younger, of course, you're always looking for saving the bucks. And, I think way back when I had some of my dusters and some of my early darts and so forth. I used to just carry regular, road coverage, PLPD, whatever. I didn't have full coverage on things. But as the cars got nicer and nicer, and I started using them more as recreational and um, show cars and things like that, um, I felt that I wanted better insurance on those cars. I went to my insurance agent at the time, whom I haven't been with for a very, very long time, and said, I'd like to put full coverage on. Let's use my 1931 Ford as an example. Um, I'd like to put full coverage on this car. Okay, well, how much coverage do you want? Oh, I want to put. I think at that time I had $10,000 worth of coverage on it. Okay, poof, you have $10,000 worth of coverage on that car. So then move further forward, and I get the '68 Pro Street Dark GTS done. You need to get that on the road. And of course, I'm going to put full coverage on that as well. I go to my agent um, and say, I want to put full coverage insurance on this car, blah, blah, blah. What kind of value? I had already talked with Franz and the others over at the GTS registry to know about what that car was worth as a correct VIN GTS 1968 340 Dart. Um, Even though it's pro-streeted, in talking to people, they felt that the value was probably somewhere around a non-numbers matching GTS. So I put, at that time, I think $30,000 of value on the car, and there's my insurance, and there you go. So I'm feeling really good about this thing, and I put the car away for the winter, put storage insurance on it, was still with that value, and I'm feeling really, really good about it. Well, along with age and time, I guess they kind of do go together, don't they? With a lot of business experience and writing a lot of, I shouldn't say writing, but having a lot of policies written for my businesses and learning more and more about insurance, one of the things that I discovered was that my classic cars were not on the correct kind of policies. In other words, they were on a declared value policy. And what a declared value means, I can go into an insurance agent and say, I want to put $1 million worth of coverage on my car. And they go, okay, you got $1 million worth of coverage. And they write your policy according to that. And you've got $1 million worth of coverage on your car. That seems like, well, what's wrong with that? Well, the problem was, is if there's a claim, they're going to look at comparables with declared value. They're going to look at uh, probably the cheapest ones out there. And let's say, for example, it's a 68 Dart, and they see that 368 Darts sold for $5,000, even though I have $1 million on it. They're not going to pay anywhere near that $1 million because it's just a declared value and there's no legitimacy to the value of that vehicle. And it's all written into the policies. There's all kinds of disclaimers and so forth. That pretty much the insurance company can pay whatever they want on a declared value policy, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, I'm oversimplifying and I'm probably exaggerating a lot, but that's kind of what you sign up for with a declared value policy. You can do whatever you want, but I really would suggest that you talk to your insurance agent about an agreed value policy. And those aren't as easy to get. You can still get them, but there's more hoops that you have to jump through because you have to have what's called comparables. You have to have some kind of an industry guide for what the value of that vehicle is. And you might, maybe, sometimes even have an appraisal. And I would say that's probably more on the six-figure cars than on five-figure cars. But um, an agreed value policy is where you do your due diligence and homework and you look around and you come up with okay, here's three that sold that I think are similar to mine. A Haggerty price guide, Haggerty classic car, antique car price guide says this price. And maybe you did get an appraisal. And okay, so boo, 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 all these things come together. And I think I'm carrying $45,000 worth of coverage now on my GTS, for example. And that was all based upon comparables and things that I came up with. And then when I went to auto owners with that, they take that information and they also do their due diligence and they look at the Haggerty price guide and they do their own research on comparables. They may or may not require an appraisal, and they may come back and say, we don't feel that that car is worth that much. We feel it's worth this much. And so you enter into a negotiation process on what they're willing to pay out should something happen to that car and it's completely destroyed, and what you're willing to receive for that car should it be willing or should it be completely destroyed. And you come to an agreed value, and then you enter into a binding contract, an insurance policy that covers the vehicle for the value that you agreed on for that car. It's not something that you're going to walk into an insurance agent and accomplish like that. If you walk into an insurance agent and you say, I want to put collector car insurance on my blah 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 car, and I think it's worth 45,000, and you walk out with a proof of insurance in 10 minutes, I would start asking some serious questions about that. Um, it takes a while because they need to do their homework. You need to do your homework. You may have to pay for an appraisal, other things like that. So be aware of that. I'm not a big proponent of what company to use. One of the reasons I use my own insurance carrier is I have a lot of experience with them. They've always taken good care of me. They've always paid out. If there's been a claim, they've never questioned anything. You pay a little bit more in some ways. The other reason I like it is because I can make changes on my policy on the fly with my car. So, for example, scoops, I don't remember what I have on that for coverage, but I have an agreed value policy on scoops. And say today I decide I'm not driving it anymore. I can call my agent, hey, let's put that back on storage. It's done, just like that. And 2 days later, if I decide I want to put it back on the road again, I can call them, put it back on the road. I can drive the car. I did that for the GTS. That's on storage insurance. But when we took it to the Freedom Festival show, which there was an episode on a month or two ago here, I called my agent, got a proof of insurance, put it on the road for the weekend. I said it's going to be on for the holiday over the 4th. I want it back into storage on Monday. They took care of all of that. The reason I like that is because on a lot of collector policies, at least it was this way years ago with some of the specialty companies, is you have to pay for a full year of that insurance up front. And you can't make those switches. You have the policy on the car, and that's the way it is. And now some of that on and off the road stuff I know is factored in, but I like the fact that I have a little bit more control over the insurance, when it's on, when it's off, and how much I'm paying per month. I pay very, very little for these all of these collector car policies that I have, because the cars aren't on the road for mostly 9 months out of the year. They're just in storage, which is dirt cheap. This one is a little more real and painful to me right now, because it's not related to a collector car policy, but it's just relating to insurance in general. For reasons I won't go into, I am in the process of switching my insurance agent to another insurance agent with the same carrier. I'm not changing policies, but it's called agent of record. And in the process of having, I'm still going through the process of having my policies reviewed. But as the new agent was looking things over, we found out that I was paying $5,000 a year more than I needed to for the coverage that I had. I've been paying that for a lot of years. So something that I'm also suggesting is, even if you have to pay for it, get somebody to audit your policies and look through them. Even if it's going to another agent and saying, I'm considering switching my agent of record on my policies. Will you look these over and see if there's changes that you can recommend? For one thing, if they think you're going to switch, they're going to really be aggressively digging into those policies and finding out where they can save you money and finding potential holes. But I am sure there are people out there who will also audit these policies for you and just, give you some fresh perspective, especially if they don't have an axe to grind. Um, I haven't done that with my auto policies yet, but I'm going to be. I'm in the process of switching agent of record right now for our homeowners and auto and all that stuff. And switching agent of record on personal stuff is a little more complicated than business. Um, but I already know, as I've sat with her, she said, I'm seeing some things that I think we need to address in these policies. I don't know if it's just the auto or not, but we've got, I don't know, 6 or 8 policies for personal stuff, and so I'm interested to see what her perspective is and what she has to say. Just like I went through with the commercial guy in that same agency on my business, and I'm excited. The other thing that I'm also excited about with this agency is they will do an annual review of all your policies to be sure that your coverages line up with where your life is at that moment versus where it was a year ago. So yeah, this is supposed to be about just collector car insurance, but even just collector car insurance, I would say have an agent who's willing to audit things with you, who's willing to, on a regular basis, sit down, not at your initiative, but that's part of their process, is to sit down with you and go over things and make sure that the coverages you have are adequate. Sometimes things, um, we downsize and we shrink and we have too much insurance for where we're at. That's just as important to address as making sure that we're covered for everything we have. We obviously have a lot of cars, and if I can save a few bucks on my insurance policies, that's important. We have 10 collectors cars here. Not all of them are insured at this point, but a lot of them are, and they all are on declared value policies. Um, they are all on a collector car type policy. They happen to be with auto owners, but I believe that any of the major carriers, as long as it's an agreed value policy and as long as it is a carrier with a good reputation, they'll be able to take care of you. I think those things are more important than, oh, you've got to use this one or you've got to use that one, or value for the dollar and reputation. Do the research, do the diligence, talk to people at car shows. Have you had a claim? How did they pay out? How long did it take? Was it a big pain in the neck? Yada, 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 yada. All right, that'll do it for this one. Drop your comments down there. I'd love to hear from you on this one, and we will catch you on the next one. Rah!